In this episode of Testimony, a musician story presented by Sound Seekers, I talked to rapper Aklesso. Now, Aklesso discusses growing up in a Christian home with a father who was a deacon, who, when he was around the age of 12, Aklesso being 12, his father abandoned his family. He left and moved to a whole nother continent and didn't communicate with them for years, and how that affected Aklesso's faith and how he thought then that God too would abandon him. Aklesso also talks about letting go of anger, the anger he had for his father, and just letting go of anger in general, and wanting to be a role model because he didn't have one. Musically, he talks about the importance of album rollouts, the importance of presenting your product. Additionally, he breaks down Worst Year featuring Gawvi, Popular featuring Sam Rivera, Blackkklansman, and Heaven Only Knows in the 4-song breakdown. I am Galika Brown, and this is Sound Seekers Presents Testimony, a musician story. So let's go ahead then and start with your first music memory.
Ooh, my first music memory.
Whether it be something that you were listening to or watching when you were a kid.
One of my first music memories, it was probably when I was, man, that's such a good question. I think one of the first things that comes to my mind is I was with, so I wasn't allowed to really listen to hip hop like that. So I was with my aunt Amy, and we were in the car somewhere waiting for something. I don't know what we were waiting for. And then she like put on this song that's just like, pump up the jam, pump it up while your feet are stumping. And then the person's just rapping. I was just like, whoa, this is so different than our a place to stay. Get your booty on the floor. And I was just like, oh, this is
my day. Make my day.
No, to this day, I don't know what the name of that song is. My head, I'm like,
it up.
Pump it up. Okay. Yeah, so it was kind of like, wow, like this music is so different. And then from there on, I think that's like the first thing. And I think the second one at my church, I was with my aunt again, and then they were doing this kind of like end of the year thing. And they had this thing called like the singles ministry is what it was called. And they did this dance to Roll Out by Ludacris. But it's a clean version. I think it was like edited. So it was like, clean, you know what I'm saying? So they were doing like this rollout dance, and I was like, oh, who is this? And then I found out it was Ludacris. And at the time, Ludacris was like the biggest thing, at that time. But, I didn't know because I wasn't allowed to listen to rap.
So your aunt then, it sounds like she was hip to game and put you up on game.
Yeah, a lot of my aunts and uncles put me on so I remember my uncle Montez and Natalie and my aunt Shanna, they would DJ and pull up music. My aunt was a producer, and they would put on like the wildest beats, like even techno beats, and like make me freestyle to them. And like, you got to be able to freestyle any beat, so that way when you start doing music, like you can do anything, and it's actually something that's carried over to now. So it's so funny how a game to them became like a lifestyle for me,
Yeah. I mean, especially since you weren't even allowed to listen to, well, what was it specifically you weren't allowed to listen to?
I wasn't allowed to listen to like hip hop rap. Like I wasn't allowed to because they, like they just thought it was bad music. But it's so funny though. And I think it's super funny and hypocritical, and me and my mom laugh about it now. It's like some of the Haitian compa that she plays is super sensual, if you listen to the words, it is super sensual. And it's like, wait, you play this all around the house, you put this at the parties, but you don't let me listen to hip hop.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, if not worse. It's just so funny. Like, I don't know. maybe because I'm young, they don't want me hearing, you know, they didn't want me listening to those words, but
yeah, it could have been like because people might kind of associate hip hop with like gangsta life and thug life and drugs and
yeah,
yeah, sex, but not really thinking like Caribbean type music also has a lot of like sensual, sexual undertones and
yep,
just the beat alone, just
yep.
winding and all that. Like,
And it's just like I remember I had a friend in I think I was in 4th grade or younger. He got me the 50 Cent album, Get Rich or Die Trying.
mm-hmm.
And I was so excited. And I remember I got the CD and I was gonna play it. And then before I got to play it, my mom found it. And she was like, "What is this?" And I was just like, "Oh no." I was like, "My best friend gave it to me." And she's like, "Give it back to Matthew and tell her we don't listen to this music in this house. I never want to see this ever again. Give it back." And I was just like, wow. And I was so sad. I gave it back to my friend. I was like, my mom doesn't want me listening.
Sorry,
I
I can't listen to Candy Shop. Like,
was like, but I would sneak it though. I
mm-hmm.
had I had this radio that you could stick the like a headphone jack into it, and then you're able to like hear the music. So that's how I got into like listening, because I would like play like FM music and I would just have my headphones and then my mom wouldn't know. But you know, you're a kid, you be sneaking around trying to get away with stuff.
Of course. All right. So let's move into your life story now and
Mm-hmm.
start with the early days of where you were born and raised.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Dade County, Miami, Florida. Yeah, growing up, my mom, she was a lawyer at the time. My dad worked in business. So it was a cool time. I grew up with my 3 sisters. I had an older sister, Vernette. I call her older because she was way older. And then I had another sister named Kachana, 2 years older. We'd always fight. My little sister Sika, 5 years younger. And it was like really, really peaceful. Grew up in the church. Everything was good. And then um, my parents, they ended up getting a divorce. My dad, before they got divorced, my dad decided he was going to leave to go to Africa. And then things kind of just went down the drain from there. And it's just kind of like growing up in the church. And it's just like, wow, like these people were deacons. You know what I'm saying? Like these people were supposed to be like, like what the church says. And it's just like, was everything like a lie? Like everything they told me, like everything they was teaching me, like, is God a lie? It was like all these questions, all these thoughts I had to like think through. Is like, what is truth? And like most people, when they're battling those questions, they're usually like, you know, 18, in their 20s, maybe even their 30s, But like I was asking those questions at 12. Like I was like looking at different philosophies and stuff like that at a young age, trying to figure things out. So it was a weird time, and I was in a Christian school in Miami, and like, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, man, I try to do everything right, but it's like, why are these bad things happening to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is all this stuff, kind of like happening to me? So it was a weird moment. It was a weird time. And as I was going through that, 1 second, I'm telling my roommate to keep it down. as I was um as I was like going through all that stuff, um I just felt God like always coming through, like whether it was like a random mentor that would kind of like guide me, like when I was about to like do something I shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Or like just someone coming along trying to like uplift me and bring me up and like guide me in the right path. I feel like he always came through. And like even when like foreclosure, the house, all these different things, like he always kind of just showed up, whether it was through people, guidance. And Um, that's kind of like my growing up in a Haitian Togolese household.
So, okay, so were both your parents from Haiti?
No, my mom
Okay.
was from Haiti. My dad is from Togo.
And where is Togo?
Togo's in West Africa. It borders Ghana.
Okay. And so he was planning on going back home to Togo then.
Yeah, he went to the Congo.
Okay.
Went to the Congo. Yeah.
So you were 12 when they divorced, or around 12? Okay. And he went to the Congo. How was your relationship with your father once that happened?
Oh, it was non-existent. Yeah, I haven't seen him since I was 12.
Oh, really? He
Mhm.
just bounced and that was it.
He bounced like, I mean, now we speak every now and then. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, he's trying now, but when you haven't had a relationship with someone for for more than half your life, it's like, like he's been gone more than I've been, like more than half of how long I've been living. So it's like you don't see someone for 14 years, 13, 14 years. It's like, I don't know, like it's like, who are you? Like, you don't even know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm not a child anymore. Like, you don't know anything about me. It was so funny. So I got engaged after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. And my mom, she told my dad. She told my dad I got engaged. And then he was like telling her like, oh, like he doesn't think he can tell, like, why didn't he tell me he was getting engaged? Like and I'm just kind of like, and my mom looked at me, she started laughing. We were like laughing, like, what? Like, what's going on with him? Like, what do you mean I didn't tell you I was getting engaged? Like, yeah, I mean, you didn't tell me you wasn't coming back. Like, it's like, it's just like so funny. Like, and I laugh at that stuff, but that's my dad. Like, no matter what wrong he's done, like, I always got love for him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're not buds, we're not friends, you know, we're not confidants, we don't have a relationship, even though I know he's trying in his own way, but it's like, there's kind of like people who like have low-key filled that role of like people I look up to or go to for advice or different stuff like that, or I he's not that. So yeah, it's a weird dynamic. Like, there's no hate, but there's no like love, if that makes sense. There's love, but not like that kind of love.
Yeah. It's love because he's your father,
Hmm.
but it's not like the type of love that you have for your mother who's been there your entire life.
Exactly. There's no malice.
Mm. I mean, it all makes sense. And so was it then in recent years where did he reach out to try to reconnect with you? Like, how did this come about?
It's like he would call, like he would call, like try and talk. And there were times where like, the thing about my dad, he's like, how do I describe him? He's like you ever seen the episode of Fresh Prince
The
where
father one.
Connor comes back? He's the kind of guy that's like, you walk in, hey, very charismatic guy, good with his words, very intelligent, knows how to make people feel warm inside, can really talk a big game, and like, the kind of guy that like, has good intentions, but just doesn't just can't get the job done. He's that kind of guy, like, but very loving. Like, he can make his worst enemy become his friend. Like it's interesting, like, because my fiance, she hears a lot of negative that I said about him, but I tell her like, if you met him, you would like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no way. I'm like we're much alike. Me and him are much alike, except I don't flake. That's the only difference. I don't flake on people. But so it's interesting because it's like sometimes you get caught up in that, and then he'll just let you down and let you down and let you down, and you come back because you know he's saying these things and making these promises, and then he'll let you down, he'll let you down, he'll let you down, and it's just like, you know what, I just don't want to get let down anymore, so let's just, let's, how you doing, man? You doing good? All right.
Well, I mean, that's mature of you to get to that point to where you can think that way, to where I'll still have a relationship with you, I'll still talk to you, but I'm not going to allow you to let me down anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's all love. I think the worst thing, I think, not just me, but anybody can do is just like hold hate in your heart. Like,
Hmm.
you know, even me, like I've been hurt by so many people, like my dad, other family members, like, you know, just people who had like, you know, evil intentions to me that have scarred me, even from when I was a kid to now, like have scarred me, you know, but it's just like, man, like I can hold this hate, I can hold this trauma, you know, that I've gone through, you know, or I can just let it go, you know, because I don't want to bring that, you know, I've brought that into relationships before, like, you know what I'm saying, and have ended up hurting people, you know, people that I've cared about deeply, and it's just like I don't want to do that, like, you know, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to bring that into like my future marriage, or put that on my kids, or, you know, so it's just a weird, it's a weird dynamic, but I feel like we have to let go. We have to let God, you know what I'm saying, do healing, because if not, it's gonna make you feel sick. You know, you're not gonna, yeah. I used to feel like anger motivated me, like, oh, I'm gonna prove them wrong. Like, you know, and it's just like, that's not motivation. That's heartburn. That's stress.
Yeah.
That's gray hair. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You know, when you're angry at somebody, and I know I'm rambling, like they don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're not in communication, like they're living their life. Like it's not affecting them,
Hmm.
but it's killing you. It's affecting you. It's like, why are you gonna be angry over something that people don't care about or don't even know that they did wrong to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you gonna hold that? You know? So yeah.
No, I mean those are facts. That's everyone should take heed. It's easier said than done, definitely. But yeah, those are good words. And as far as so in your household, your father left, and now your mom is what raising pretty much two kids because your older sister is older.
She's not raising any kids right now.
No, I mean,
Oh, then yeah, it was yeah, she's raising me and my two sisters. Yeah.
okay. And you talked about, wrestling with God and like the church, mainly what the church looks like because you said they were deacons and your father literally just left and abandoned you guys. So how did you get to know Jesus for your own on your own and have that love for him despite everything that was going on in your life?
So interesting. There's this guy, his name was David Rodriguez. He was just this phenom, you know, like he boxed, like any sport he did, he killed it. And I remember when I was young, he was like a substitute PE coach. And we were doing something, like I wasn't allowed to play football, so I didn't know anything about football. I was good at every other sport. I just didn't know football because I wasn't allowed to play. I was, you know, I saw it. Since I didn't play, I didn't watch it. And then it was something that happened where he was like, "Yo, I'll hang with you," and then like we got to talking, and then just kind of his actions, I would just watch him from then on out. Like even when my dad was around, I kind of watched because I knew about faith. I could answer every Bible question as a kid. You know, like I knew it back and forth, but it didn't hit me personally because I didn't really know what it looked like, what it looked like to be like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So when I'd see him, I was kind of like, this guy is different. And then he ended up getting cancer and dying. You know, he ended up dying from cancer. And I just saw like the thousands of people that came to his funeral and just the words people said. I'm like, wow, like I want that, you know. And then it kind of like I put my faith in God. And even when I was questioning, I had my faith in God, but I was just doubting. So like my worldview was just like, I guess when it comes to like black and brown people, like God doesn't love them. Maybe he just looks out for white people. Because my perspective of white people, like their life was all together, even though that's not true. But from a kid's perspective, it just looks that way, Um, so I was just kind of just like thinking through things, but it, I, yeah, I think it was around that. It was around that time where I was just like, you know what, like middle school, like I want to, I really want to like serve God, but man, I would struggle so much. Like I would struggle so much with, just like relationships and different stuff like that, like trying to fill the gaps um, with other things other than God. And it would be a mess. It would just be a mess. Just like reflecting on it right now, it's kind of like messy, but that's the thing about God. Even when you're giving up on yourself, He don't give up on you.
Facts.
Hmm.
Facts. So around what age then would you say he became personal to you?
I would say around 13 years old.
Okay.
13.
So you just had like a year of struggle
No, I was,
of 13.
even though I had faith in God, I had a lot of doubts.
Yeah.
Like I was a lot of doubts. I was just like, you know what, like it was like I believed in God, trusted in God, I trusted in His word, but it was just like I was struggling with Him being a good father. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? It was like I like because I would just kind of see like when I read like, oh God the Father, I'd be like, well, my dad. You know what I'm saying? So like that's it kind of like affected like I guess how I viewed God, even though I believed in Jesus and I trusted Him. I had my faith in Him. It was just like, well, you know what? My dad failed me, so God would let me down too. Like I would just struggle with that part. Like just put in like I'm not gonna ask God for anything, because he'll fail me too. But if you wanna help me in this, you can. But I I'm like giving myself room for God to let me down, as if you know what I'm saying. It was a weird place, just with
But he kept showing out each time.
yeah, he kept showing up. Yeah, he kept
Okay.
every time, and it's just like sometimes it's not how you expect it. It's like if I never went through all that stuff, I wouldn't be doing music. Like I started doing like music because my dad left. I was writing poetry to like get my heart through it, to get my mind through it. I write poetry to girls. Like I started getting into music because my dad left. Like if it wasn't for that, like I wouldn't be making these songs, these records, encouraging these people, doing these things. So it's like I needed that to happen. Like, and that's so weird to say because it's like sometimes we look at as bad things as just that, but it's like there's such a bigger plan. Like if Job never went through what he did, like the millions and millions of people who've heard of his story, wouldn't know how to deal with pain and loss, like that, in such a way. I think everything, is for a reason, but
Okay. Well, let's move on to a little bit more joyful occasion. You
mhm.
mentioned getting engaged. You said before Thanksgiving,
After Thanksgiving.
after Thanksgiving, and I did see it on IG. Yeah, there's a little video of you proposing. Um, so let's just talk about like the how old. Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 26.
26. Okay. And the decision, like, let's talk about you dating. Like, how long were you guys together?
Yeah, so we were dating for 2.5 years. We were kind of like talking beforehand for like 8 months, like 8 months, like a long time. Um, and yeah, we were friends before that, like bestest of friends, like a couple years before that. So it was like, it's been a cool progression, like she's so funny, like goofy at times, but also like just so understanding and comforting and like wise, like beyond her years, very wise, very patient. And sometimes I'm very like, like, you know, I was like agitating. I don't want to say agitating, but really like, you know, big dreamer, like all this stuff. And she's kind of just like, really like, okay, like, let's connect the dots, you know? So it's just like more than a supporter, like a best friend. And it's just like when you find someone that one loves God more than you, but also like has qualities that you can see like, wow, like not only though like you don't deserve it, but it's like, dang, like we don't even gotta be like doing all these crazy stuff to like, you know, be happy, you know. It's like I don't know how to really tangibly put it in words, but just like someone you could just vibe with, you know, and just build something with and have a goal towards. It's not just like, all right, let's get married, but like, okay, let's have our marriage like be a blessing to other people, you know, like be you know what I'm saying, an example to other people that like in our marriage, like we're, you know, helping younger people and even in our community and striving towards something like it's not just like for us, but it's essentially a ministry, you know, for others. Um and someone that is like has that in mind as well, you know, and trust you, you know, and trust you. Um yeah.
So there were a few people, or at least a couple people last year who got engaged in the Christian hip hop world. John Keith and Holvey, and you were talking about like being an influence to the people in your community. How important do you think it is, your community around you is in your relationships, and in particular an engagement going
Yeah.
towards marriage?
So when I it's awesome because John proposed, he's engaged, he's getting married. Hovey, um, Gleese, my producer, best friend, Romar Jesse, Kilowatts, another producer. Um, you know, so many of us got engaged, you know. T Ross got married. T Ross the Giant, he got married. So it's just like I think a lot of us have come from broken families, like, you know, and I think a lot of people who follow us and you know what I'm saying, like fans, you know, other foolies, like, you know what I'm saying, that follow me come from broken homes, you know. So it's just like to show them also like, look, like I know you've seen it not work and you know, you probably a lot of kids I know like don't want to get married. Like they don't want to deal with that. Like they don't want to go through that heartache or put their kids through the heartache of divorce. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like just because your parents failed doesn't mean you will, you know, like I'm not married, but I know it's gonna be hard, you know, because the dating part is already hard. You know, I already know it's gonna be magnified. But it's like if the goal is really to come together, you know, and have Jesus as the center, like not just like saying like, okay, we're gonna put Jesus at the center, but like, are y'all in the word together? You know what I'm saying? Are y'all growing together? Are you serving together? Are you putting each other first, like God first, and then the other person first? Like those things, like you know what I'm saying? If you're not doing those things, of course it's gonna fall apart. You know, if you're not honoring each other, of course it's gonna fall apart. If you don't have genuine love for each other beforehand, of course it's gonna fall apart. Um, but yeah, I just want to be that example. I'm not scared. I'm not scared to be a role model. I know a lot of people say like, okay, just because I'm an artist doesn't mean I'm a role model. It's like I want to be a role model. Like I think that's an honor, you know, because I needed one growing up, you know, so I want to be that for other people.
Right on. Okay. And how would you say God's presence looks like in your life personally, outside of the music, just personally?
You know, it's so interesting. I was just talking like literally an hour and a half ago to my fiance and I was just talking about like, you know, like so many times God has come through, you know what I'm saying? Like we can just talk about provision right now. He's come through and it's like for a couple of weeks now, I've been like, pacing back and forth about like finances. Like, wow, I got to pay for this wedding. We got to get this place. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to pay for that. And I'm just like, I got to help her with her school. I got to pay for that. And I'm thinking about all these things. I'm just like, hold on. Why am I tripping over this now when literally every time he showed up, like literally when our house was getting foreclosed and we didn't know where we was going to go, and there was no light in the house for months, no water for months. We had to go fill up buckets, with water from a well over there, you know what I'm saying? That's why I wrote it in Ransom. I remember bathing in buckets. Now I'm singing in London. And it's just like God has come through in so many ways. It's like, why am I tripping about it now? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why would I trip about it now? And it's just like, just knowing, like, I look at the story of Joseph, and when you look at Joseph, he never really had a dream like he wanted to be this. Like, he was just kind of thrown into a situation like, all right, you're gonna be a slave. And even that time, the scriptures say, and the Lord was with him as a slave. You're gonna be in jail. The scriptures say the Lord was with him as he was in jail. He just did everything in excellence, and God was there. And then he got placed in a position, and the Lord was with him in that position to save an entire nations. So it's just like, yo, I'm just gonna do things well, and God is gonna be with me. And for me to keep that with, like, grow that relationship, what I'm saying? I gotta be on my knees, what I'm saying? Like, the battles are won, like, not in your craft, but on your knees, like praying, what I'm saying? So it's like, I just know, that God is with me, you know what I mean? And it's like, when you talk about like the presence of the Lord, it's just like he's with his people. Like, you got to trust that. And it's not this like ground voice, coming down screaming at you, you know what I mean? It's the Holy Spirit, like, guiding your heart. It's trusted leaders, in your life that are, have good intentions, that are helping you. It's you and what God has placed in your heart that's guiding you. It's the scriptures, that hold the truth. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But it's also easy to slip out of that, like, with the doubts and the fears and when you're struggling with different things, when you're around bad company, like, it's easy to slip out of that where you can't hear anything. You just hear chaos and confusion, and that's gonna happen in life. But when that happens, get back on your knees, man. Come back to your first love. Like Paul says in the scriptures, come back to your first love. But yeah, I'm rambling, but it's like it's just like faith is just such a it's like a beautiful it's a beautiful thing, because I was talking to somebody about this earlier. It's like in art, right? Music, art, like, um, I'm you're always striving for perfection. At least I am. I'm striving for this next level of, what I'm saying, of innovation. I'm trying to get to a place where it's like perfection. But the thing is, I'm never gonna get there. Like, even when I put out MLBM, in my mind, I had alterations and things I want to fix or add after I put it out. But it's just like, you're always art is never done. You're always critiquing it. It's always growing. And once you put it out, it's not yours anymore. It's the world's. When you think about your faith, right? You're striving, you're working to get to this perfection, right? But you're never gonna get there, right? That's why you need Jesus. And it's like, same thing as art. Like, you're trying to attain this perfection, like, you're maddening yourself to get to this place. And in faith, you're maddening yourself to get to this place, and you're falling, you're working, you're trying to do these works, but it's like, you'll never, no matter what work you put in, you're never going to reach this perfection that is Jesus. And I just think it's this beautiful place when those things come together. It's just like, it's matrimony. It's matrimony.
I mean, it's beautiful to hear you to talk. You keep saying that you're rambling, but it's just beautiful to hear you, like, even speak about God, and just the way that your face lights up. But I think, like, to some, to hear you say you're never going to reach this perfection, it might sound discouraging.
As far as like the music or the
You know,
faith?
as far as just in life to say that you're never, not the art part, but spirituality, saying that you're never going to reach perfection. That's where like Jesus comes in.
Mhm.
But to those who hear that and think, well, if I'm never going to make reach perfection, then what's even the point? What
Yeah,
would you say to that?
that's such a cool thing. It's like it's so funny. I think about like sports. It's um like you train and train and train to reach this goal. Paul talks about it, right? An athlete trains to reach this goal, right? And I think about, you know, the goal is Jesus. The goal is to be of God. It's like um it's kind of frustrating that I think there's a freedom in knowing that you're never gonna in it of yourself, you're never gonna make it, right? Because that takes off the stress of knowing it's not about what you do, but it's what Jesus does for you. You know, like you don't got to, you know, do all these things. It's just all you have to do is put your faith in Jesus and he does the work. You know what I'm saying? You just have to follow him, you know, and trust him and believe in him, you know. And to me that's very reassuring because I'm so goal oriented. I feel like I gotta meet expectations. I gotta go above and beyond. But it's like, but the worst thing about that is when I fail. You know, as an athlete, training for something so hard and then not getting to that place. You know, or training for something so hard and you get there and it doesn't satisfy you anymore because you want to go more. And it's the thing about Jesus, he satisfies you. You look at in John, I think it's John 4, women at the well, you know, or was it, I think it's John 4, but whatever, women at the well, she says, I'll give you living water, you know, where you don't have to keep drawing this water. Obviously he was talking about, you know, faith in him and she didn't understand that. It's just like, but it satisfied her
Mm-hmm.
so much she wanted other people to get it too, you know.
Ran off
I
and
think that's what I
that.
think that's what Jesus is, you know.
Right on.
Mhm.
We'll move on to hot topic. What's trending on Twitter right now? Do something a little bit fun. I don't know if you're familiar with. There's an artist by the name of Zayn,
Mm-mm.
Zayne. Well, his "Nobody Is Listening" album is trending mainly because of the rollout that he did behind it.
Mhm.
So, two things. That I think it's not out yet. I don't know if it comes out tomorrow, but one of the things that he's done is US fans, so fans in the States, if they can't afford to buy the album Nobody Is Listening, then they're saying that you can fill out a form and they'll provide funds for you to buy it, is one. And another like fan writes, Zayn is always so considerate. He hosted listening parties for all of us, I guess whatever his group of people he calls them, and made them accessible and comfortable. He could have just, and he did it just for the fans. And now Nobody's Listening party is online and it's open for everyone during the pandemic. But there's like somebody had posted like a list of things that he's been doing with all of his rollouts going back to like 2016. Like he paid for unlimited food and drinks that were supplied to fans who attended his Mind of Me listening party in London. He secretly invited some fans to a sneak peek of his new music video and had a sleepover and ice cream. So my question to you is like you're pretty good with your rollouts, and you're a pretty creative person. So how important is it in this era to have a creative rollout for a song or an album?
I think it's so important because so one thing with my music, I I want people to feel like they're a part of it. I want people to feel like the music is speaking to them. Like this is not just my journey, but it's our journey. So one thing I did, I started a Discord um, where, you know what I'm saying, like, where people feel like they have a community of like, whether it's different artists or different just people, you know what I mean? Like that they can feel encouraged. So sometimes I host like monthly Zooms where I'll give younger artists advice, you know, and listen to their music and just encourage them, you know. And, you know, I'll engage and talk with them because I'm not that good at, you know, with the DMs on Twitter and Instagram, but like on the Discord, I try to like, you know, talk to them and hang with them and, you know, allow them to feel love. But as far as a rollout goes, it's like you can have an amazing product, but if the presentation is not good, no one's gonna try it. It's like Gordon Ramsay, like he'll look at a dish and be like, "Oh, this presentation is ugly. It doesn't look appetizing," so he'll throw it away. But it's just like the chef will be like, "You didn't even taste it." Like he's like, "I'm sure the flavors could have been good, but you didn't present it well." So I think it's important with your rollout and even with your fans that you present yourself well and like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're there for them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And moving on to music, how did you get your music start? In addition, like I know you said your aunts and uncles had you freestyling to random beats and everything, but how did you even get to the point of freestyling?
Oh man, I don't know, I would just kind of like put words together, you know, like I know that sounds like sarcastic, but it was like I would just do it and like sound dorky, like in trash, you know, and just but even when I was trash, they would hype me up, you know? So I would just keep going and going and it was just like endless amount of practice, you know, endless amount of writing and practice, you know, and just at first you try to rap like another artist. You try and copy your favorite artist and how they rap to a place where you're your own person, your own creative, you know? So
So you said that you were writing poetry when your father left, but how did you transition that into music?
well, it was kind of like the rhyming aspect of it. So it wouldn't just kind of like be free forming poetry. It would rhyme, you know, whether it was like AABB, AB or CD, or CCDD, or it would be AABB, you know, different poetry forms, like, you know, or maybe it would be a free form at some point. Maybe it would be um, personifying things. Like I wrote, and I wish I could. I wrote this one poem for this girl called Yellow Moon, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a way. It was I don't no way I'm gonna ask her for it, but I just wish I had that poem because it was. Well,
Maybe she'll
at the time,
hear this
I don't
and
know.
give you Yellow Moon.
Say that again.
Maybe she'll hear this interview and send you Yellow Moon.
Uh, maybe yeah. She doesn't even have my new number though, so yeah. But it was yeah. So I would write poetry and then I would rap. When I was sad, I would write poetry. When I was angry, I would write lyrics. I would freestyle for fun in class, in the cafeteria, in the bus, all that stuff. I'd do all I could.
And was it Christian lyrics you were writing? Were you interested in being a Christian artist or what?
No, I was never interested in being a Christian artist. Like I just so I really wasn't interested in being a rapper.
Okay.
I think that's the first thing. Like that was never on my because you know coming from a Haitian household, like rap is not it. That's
Yeah.
not it. So just like this is just something I do. This is just a hobby, you know. Like I mean, I wasn't being vulgar in my music. I was never vulgar in my music. It was more just like flexing, like, oh, I'm so fly, I get all the girls, I won't stop. Like just weird stuff like that. Like, you know what kids rap, like, you know, I probably said like the N-word a couple times, like as a kid, like just rapping, like but like it wasn't like vulgar stuff, you know, but yeah, it was like I was just doing it for fun. And then sometimes I would write like deeper stuff. But it was kind of like that, you know.
Well, okay. So then how do you get connected? How do you get into the Christian music realm? And
Okay, so it's like So I kind of just got thrown into it low key. It's like I had a friend named Eric Kingsley, he's a producer. And then when I first started rapping, we connected, and he was kind of just telling me like, oh, like there's this thing called Christian hip hop, and I was like, oh yeah, like, and he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, like Lecrae and Andy, Tadashi and Trip and KB, and he's like, yeah, but like there's like a whole community of other people that do it, and I was like, oh, they're not the only ones, and
It's not just Reach Records.
yeah, so I thought like I didn't know there was a subgenre. I thought it was like it was just one big hip hop. All everything is hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I'm just doing hip hop and like I'm rapping about my faith and my experiences, like kind of thing. But I kind of got thrown into Christian hip hop because he was like, "Here's Rapzilla, like this is Rapzilla, this is Jam the Hype," and he would tell me about these different things, and I'd be like, oh, okay, and they're like, he's like, yeah, like if you want to like find people who like agree with your like our faith like you, like submit to here, and they'll like push your stuff to people that can hear it. So I'm like, oh, bet. So I sent this song called False Love to Rapzilla, and I was just like, oh, please, I hope they pick it up. I hope they pick it up. And when they picked it up, I was so ecstatic, like, oh my gosh, they picked it up. Like I was so happy, and I'm still happy that they did that, because I started getting new fans because of that. And then that's kind of how I got thrown into the Christian hip hop world, and which I'm glad to be a part of. If anyone were asking like, hey, are you a Christian rapper? I'd be like 100% yeah. You know what I'm saying? I am. But I definitely feel like my music, like, I think my music specifically hits people who aren't Christian at all. Like, I have so many fans that are like, don't believe in Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Don't believe in God, may know of God. Like, I have a lot of fans, like a good amount of them don't know God, like they don't. But they love my music. And then I have another sector of fans that like their whole life is just God. They live in the church, they breathe the church, and they love my music. So I feel like a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people older than me saying like, yo, you there's no such thing as being in the middle. You're either here or there, as far as the industry goes. But I feel like Jesus, was for everybody, as far as like he was with the worst of sinners, and some of them rocked with him, they just couldn't live with, they just couldn't give up, you know what I'm saying, their lifestyles to really follow him. But they rocked with him. They wanted to see what he was about. They rocked with him. And even people who was the holiest of holies didn't really rock with him, and some did, so it's interesting. I feel like my music is that perfect middle, is that perfect.
How did you end up hooking up with Good City Music?
So Gawvi introduced me. Yeah, Gawvi introduced me to. I knew about Butter P already as an artist. The Christian rappers I knew was Rima Soul, so that was Butter P, Juan and Kanada and Gawvi, and then I knew like Reach. I knew Reach. I didn't know anybody else. I knew one other person. Someone put me on to Flame, this song called Seymour. I want to see more him because I'm sick of more me. Want to be like. So I knew about them, but pretty much Gawvi put me on to Amanda, and then we formed a relationship, and we did a partnership together with Good City. So it was like a partnership together. But yeah, like it's been a blessing. Amanda's helped me so much. Like, and Risha, she's part of Good City as well, has just been, so helpful, so caring, like literally anything I need, like always helping me, educating me, just a servant, and everything, and like a good friend as well, So it's been amazing, and Amanda has been super loving, and she's looked out a lot, Like I'm interested and excited about like, our future together. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time.
Well, let's talk about, you've been talking about Amanda, aka Butter P. Like, I don't know if everyone knows like how much she does in
Hmm.
the background.
Yeah.
So can you just tell people like how valuable she is to artists and just to like our culture, period?
Yeah. So when you think about industry, you think about like the hip hop industry. It's had years of structure, like business wise. There've been so many people that have helped with the structure. But when you think about Christian music, like there hasn't the most in industry there's been is Reach and like really RMG. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not really familiar with God Over Money, but I know they got infrastructure as well. But like all these things are like things that have come in like what, a decade or two, like maybe like there hasn't been real infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's like a decade where real infrastructure has been in place. Now we have all these blogs and people like you who are interviewing and bringing news and media, like which all things CHH, all these different things are coming together, and these media sites are coming together and bringing these things together. And it's like when you look at Amanda, she's someone that has tapped um into big business as far as like getting other artists opportunities to be in commercials and films, you know what I'm saying, and different stuff like that, where a lot of times Christian artists have not been on the ball game, as far as licensing goes to, or even as far as like publishing, like, equipping other artists to like, yo, make sure like your publishing is together. Like, there's money you could be getting, like a lot of just educating people and really encouraging people and being like a voice to other people. Like she started even a podcast thing where she brings in other successful business people in the industry that come from faith or may not come from faith, put other people onto game about, the industry, and just like a big resource. Um, so I'm just grateful for her. Like I've learned so much from her, just about business, understanding like in business to get something, sometimes you have to give up something, but be wise about what you give up though, and just putting me onto game and just always being, open about things, So that's Amanda. That's Buddy P. I call her the pit bull because, what I'm saying, when it comes to me, like I'm really like I'm like a pushover when it comes to things like I'm so into like art, that I just think about the art. Like I don't want to really deal with the business numbers, money, that stuff, which is something I've been learning to work on. But Amanda's like a pit bull. She's gonna make sure I get what I'm supposed to get. You know what I'm saying? Like that I'm not taking advantage of and stuff like that. But you know.
Okay.
Mhm.
And moving on to the album that you released at the end of last year, my life is a beautiful mess. Let's talk about the title, like why title it that, and just what went into putting out that entire project, because it's kind of a long time coming.
Long time coming. Yeah, my life is a beautiful mess. I wanted to create something that people felt like was a friend, Like I wanted to create a body of work that like people felt like they could relate to and they were safe to, and also it told my story. When you think about when I think about my life, it's like even in the most chaotic of times, there was beauty in it. Like God was there. Speaking about Joseph, like God was there. Um, and I just feel like in those times, like God has always been there. And I think that's what life is. There's beauty, there's darkness, but in the end, it is beautiful. So that's why I came up with that title, because life is so nuanced, but it's so beautiful as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to be cognitive of your time. Do you have time? Because I do have a section called the 4 song breakdown where I like for the artist to rap or recite a verse and discuss what's going on between the lines of the song story.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, I'd pick Worst Year, Popular, Blackkklansman, and Heaven Only Knows. Do you have some time to go through those?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay. So if you don't mind starting with Worst Year featuring Gawvi, you can
Yeah,
just pick any verse that you want and recite it, and then we can discuss it.
yeah. So a lyric that comes to me now is um, chasing all my dreams, young without a thing, sleeping on my brodies for, young with no money, raging with my woes, can't deal with my folks. They say I'm next up, but I'm living like my time is now. Um, and I just think about that record. It's just like everything I've gone through, like, just really getting after this music. There are times I would sleep on the floor, like, you know what I'm saying? Or, just kind of like struggle, like just trying to make things work and family members not understanding and just these different things. But there are times where God places something in your heart, and things may be hard, but like, and people may not understand, but the vision is there. You know what you're chasing after. You know what I'm saying? And that was just kind of like reflecting on what I've been through in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of, just hard times, a couple years of hard times. And like, knowing that, God is there. I keep saying that, but it's so true. But yeah, that's kind of like the line. And even if I knew what I know now, like I remember writing that and saying that, it's just like, I was, everything is always 2020 hindsight, everything is always 2020 in hindsight, but like the times where I was struggling, if I knew I'd be here, I wouldn't be tripping about it. So it just kind of, those lyrics kind of like stand out for me as far as Worst Year goes.
Okay. And Popular featuring Sam Rivera.
Yeah. Uh Tell me how clout tastes in 5 years. um I think that line is just like, with everything, we had this whole 6ix9ine drama, and just everybody does whatever for clout, and then it's just like they do these wild things just for clout. But it's just like, yo, like at the end of the day, and your time has gone, like all that stuff you did, is that gonna matter? Like the only things that really matter is like, the heavenly things. Like what have you done for others? How have you empowered other people? What have you done for your community? You know, those are the stuff that matters, like love. And but all this other stuff, it's like you try to be popular so bad that, what I'm saying, you sold your soul, you've sold your identity, you don't know who you are. Like that stuff is not gonna matter. Like your identity, and the one that, you know, that made your identity, that's what matters. So that's kind of when I think of popular. Yeah.
And Blackkklansman.
Oh yeah, man, that's the anthem. Okay, KK, this is America. They want to see me catch malaria. Um, I think a lot of times, even for me, like, so as a child, I got malaria when I was in Africa. I was in Africa for a little bit. I caught malaria and I almost died. I was like 1 years old. I almost died.
Wow.
So when you think about, what I'm saying, America, what I'm saying they've done with Black people, the experimentations, like all these different things, just all the stuff that's happened to, to Black and brown people. Like you can't be surprised, anymore, even though there's been a lot of progress, like, what I'm saying, like there's two Americas, there's like Martin Luther King talks about, there's two Americas. Um, so just kind of like, okay, this is America, they want to catch malaria. It's like there's people that, that don't have good intentions for Black and brown people, they don't, we see that. We see that with everything that's going on right now. Like, am I to say there aren't people who love God that were, at just what happened earlier, and they didn't know what turned out to that?
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely people over there, and a good amount of people over there that do not know God. You know what I'm saying? You need to call a spade a spade. You know, I saw people with KKK hats on, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, what is going on, you know? And that's the world we live in, and you got to call a spade a spade, you know. Um, a lot of people say, like, and I hate to get political, you know what I'm saying? If you go to, it's funny, like, you'll go to a white Christian and they'll say, "You didn't vote Republican, aren't you Christian?" It's funny, you'll go to a black Christian and they'll say, "You didn't vote Democratic, aren't you Christian?" You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Really?
what?
Aren't you Christian or aren't you black? You're supposed to vote Democratic because you're black?
Yeah, I haven't heard personally, I haven't heard the black one. I heard the Christian one, but it's like both sides are saying, "Aren't you Christian? Aren't you Christian?" And it's just like, fam, it's like there's wrongs on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jesus was part of no party, and if you think he was, you are not reading the scriptures when they were trying to make him king. You were not. I don't know what Bible you were.
Republican Party in the scriptures
Yeah,
didn't exist back then. America didn't exist.
America didn't even exist back then. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like there was like when people try to politicize Jesus, when Jesus was, he would dodge them. You know, he would dodge them, and it's just such a funny dynamic to me. But I think Klansman, it speaks the ugly truth in rage. You know, we're gonna turn up to the ugly truth and understand, like, there's gonna be a better way. Like, there's gonna be a better way. So that's why I love Klansman. It's such a turn up song, but there's so much truth masked in the turn up, you know?
Truth masked in the turnip. I like that.
Hmm.
Okay. And Heaven Only Knows.
Yeah. So I wrote that after George Floyd, I think 2 days after George Floyd, I wrote that, and I was just such in a broken and disheartened place. And there are things, and I'm not gonna say I have all the answers. I will never say this is why you're going through this to somebody. I don't know. I can only speak to myself, you know what I'm saying, for myself. But there are things that happen that really only God knows.
Mm-hmm.
Tragedies that happen, only God knows, and we could never trying to you know philosophize, doctrinize, whatever you want to call it, someone's pain and grief is not the move, and sometimes you got to try and find peace in knowing that I may not understand, but God's in control, like surrendering that to him. And that's easier said than done, but I've lived that, from death of my best friend, death of my little cousin, you know, death of other friends, just seeing innocent people die, I can name so many, tough things that have happened in my life, but it's really like you can never know why. You can maybe try and think, but really you don't know. You don't know, and you may never know. And if you do know, you may only know part of it, but God knows, and he's there. And that's why I wrote Heaven Only Knows, because even in the confusion, I wanted to give people a peace knowing that even if we don't understand why, I want you to have a peace knowing that God is there.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
So, wrapping this up, how does God's presence look like in your life musically?
It's so interesting. Like, so it's weird. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, but I don't make good music or I don't write good music if I'm not like in line with God.
Mm.
I've never like spoken about that publicly, and if I have, it's probably just to Enzo and Gleese or John, same person. But I've never spoken that publicly, and I wonder if it's the same for other people. Like, in my space, like I have a hard time making. I can make music easy, but like music that matters, that can move somebody, if I'm not in line, like And like I even say, like, it doesn't mean that emotionally I'm all the way there or physically I'm all the way there, or you know, because you can hear it in some of the songs. It's very, I feel drained. I'm sad, but I'm in line. I'm in line with God, even in the sadness. Even in the muck, in the misery. Like even when I'm in misery, like I'm still, my eyes are still looking at God.
Yeah.
So I feel like if my eyes aren't looking at God, I can't. I don't want to say I can't make good music, but because I feel like I'm on a level I can make music. However, but I feel like to make that innovation, that gateway I'm looking for, I feel like for me, I'm not speaking for other people because I can't do that. But for me, I struggle making something beautiful. Like, and one thing I've been random, but one thing I've been thinking about, when you think about who you are, if who you are as a person, I am a Christian, right? So that is like my identity of who I am. I'm a follower of God, right? If who I am, if I'm moving in something contrary to who I am, there's going to be a conflict within. So when you look at somebody who doesn't know God, if there's a conflict within, their music is not going to hit the same, because they're doing something contrary to who they are, whether you're a Christian, or you want to call them secular artists, or Islamic, or whatever kind of artist you are. If you're doing something contrary to who you are, it's it's not gonna be the same.
Authentic.
It's gonna because there's a conflict within, and I think with me that's what it is. If I'm not like in the presence of God, if I'm not moving with God, you know what I'm saying? There's gonna be a conflict within you. There's gonna be a war inside you. You know.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
It did. I haven't heard that answer before, so that was nice. And then my final question, since you've gone through this process, actually, this is your second time. I just didn't get to post the first interview I did with you years ago. But who would you like to see me interview? Whose like testimony would you like to hear, or you think people should hear?
Mm. Um, I would love to hear some about from Jared Sanders. I feel like his life is so interesting. Like I've become like good friends with him over the years, but I would like to hear like a detailed interview on him.
I'm for that, for sure. Hey, what's up? Thank you. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for watching the show. However, you consume us, thank you. Please subscribe to the show. And if you really enjoy the content, please leave a review. It really does help with the ranking of the show. And if you want to go an extra mile, share the show, share this episode. And for all things testimony, visit testimonystories.com. Until next time, I'm Gilika Brown, the music lover constantly seeking positive music.